You'll recall when Donald Trump gave his remarks about Charlottesville and the aftermath of Charlottesville, he was flanked on either side of him, on both sides. Elaine Chao was there, so too was his Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin and Gary Cohn. I point out that they are Jewish only because it is pertinent to this story. Gary Cohn was taken aback, supposedly, by the president's remarks. He stayed with the administration, as did Steven Mnuchin. But a lot of the business leaders on a couple of the panels left, and a lot of from the ADL to the Simon Wiesenthal Center, of course the Southern Poverty Law Center, people that speak out on behalf of those who are slighted by hate and racism, white supremacy, etc., spoke out. Gary Cohn did not. Steven Mnuchin did not. Well, we learn now today through the reporting of the New York Times that Gary Cohn had drafted a resignation letter saying that he cannot, apparently, because the letter itself wasn't released, that he can't countenance staying with this administration. What he said publicly in an interview about his standing with the Financial Times is this. I'm sorry, this was with the New York Times, but it's through the Financial Times. Citizens standing up for equality and freedom can never be equated with white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and the KKK. I believe this administration can and must do better in consistently and unequivocally condemning these groups and do everything we can to heal the deep divisions that exist in our communities. As a Jewish American, I will not allow neo-Nazis ranting, "Jews will not replace us," to cause this Jew to leave his job. And so you get the feeling that he's disgruntled, that he spoke up privately. He said he went to Trump's country club in Bedminster, New Jersey, said to the president in very direct terms that he could not stand the way he presented this, but he didn't go anywhere. And Steven Mnuchin, the most, I would say, prominent Jewish member of this president's cabinet, the Treasury Secretary, had this to say when asked about Gary Cohn.
Gary and I have known each other for 20 years. I can tell you I'm speaking to him every day. His #1 focus is absolutely working on tax reform with me and getting tax reform done. And Gary's committed to be here and couldn't be more excited about that.
Jimmy, he said Gary's committed to be here, couldn't be more excited about it, and he just drafted a resignation letter also.
Well, it sounds like Washington, D.C., right? It sounds fantastic. Why stay? What's in it for these people to stay? Is it just that they really want to serve the country, or because they want to get a flag for look how I got some special corporate tax breaks for everybody, or or I got Social Security, finally I got the Social Security money invested into the Wall Street, I finally did it, so they'll build a statue to me. Why does he want to stay?
I'm glad you asked, Steve. Jimmy, because you and Steve had no idea that this was the next thing, that there's an answer built in here. This is why he stayed. Mr. Cohn is known, of course, he worked at Goldman Sachs, to be interested in becoming chairman of the Federal Reserve and still sees that as a possibility. It was not clear whether he told the president he planned to speak to the Financial Times. One person briefed on Mr. Cohn's discussions with the president said Mr. Cohn had made clear to Mr. Trump how upset he was and that he planned to be candid publicly about it if asked. Mr. Cohn's remarks were in stark contrast to a statement from the Treasury Secretary, as we said, Steven Mnuchin, who defended the president. Mr. Mnuchin, as we said, also Jewish.
So there you go.
He wants to be part. Now, if he wants to run the Federal Reserve, doesn't it, considering all these financial gurus who have left this administration, wouldn't it kind of burnish his credentials to leave the administration and then go to the Federal Reserve?
Wouldn't it? Yeah, it would prop him up and make him look more like a serious actor if he did that.
That's what I'm saying. By people who care about it, who are these business leaders who may have left, don't you think?
I totally agree. Steven Schwarzman left. He runs the Blackstone Group, and he's extremely wealthy and powerful.
Carl Icahn left.
They all left. And so I don't understand Gary Cohn. I mean, at what point do you put aside your personal ambitions? At what point do these multi-millionaires and billionaires decide, I have enough money. I'm going to stop working with the president who is openly embracing the white supremacist groups. I mean, when is it? I don't understand these people
such a layup,
at all.
I think, for these people.
And for Gary Cohn, I was a little bit grossed out by that comment that he is not going to let those comments replace this Jew or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Because he's giving them cover. Because he's Jewish and he openly talks about him being Jewish.
Right.
And he's working with Trump and Mnuchin is working with Trump and they're supporting him. It gives Trump the ability to say, I'm not anti-Semitic.
Right,
I have Jews right here.
But also in fairness, they're saying that by staying, and I'm devil's advocating here, by staying, they're saying, all right, we're not going to let the white supremacists win. If all the Jews in the cabinet resign, well, Charlottesville went well for the people who wanted it to go that way. So it's I understand the.
No, I get that.
They shouldn't have taken the job in the first place.
Right. But I mean, I get they can cut both ways. Yeah. I totally get it. But he is now knowingly and willingly working for an administration that is hostile towards the Jewish people. And
embraces Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, that's more than what it is. Right?
This
is
crazy.
Yes. It gives to the I guess the atmosphere that a lot of these politicians have. I just read this. I'm gonna get to this in a second. But so Steve,
take your time,
Cohn,
Rabbi Jackson.
So Cohn is going through the whole thing of first he sends his letter out how he's gonna resign, then he's gonna stay anyway. So where do you pull the most? It's because we think it's gonna all blow over because this isn't new, is what I've been trying to say a lot. This isn't new in our country. So they go, oh, well, the American people generally don't give a shit about racism, neo-Nazis. They just go, oh, wag their finger at them and then accept them back into normal life because it's just a part of our body.
Right.
No, it shouldn't be, but we're willing to accept it because society has allowed us to. It's allowed politicians to get by supporting neo-Nazis, which it's not like this is, again, brand new. Donald Trump is not the first racist in office, and he's not the only one that's currently in office. So the House, who many people came out, including Paul Ryan, and said Trump screwed up with his comments about the equivocation of all the groups are at fault. They're floating a resolution that says, in part, they strongly condemn racism, intimidation, and violence by all groups, regardless of their political affiliation or political motivation that engaged in such conduct, including the violence by the Klan, neo-Nazis, and others in Charlottesville, Virginia. So after all of this talking about how horrible what Trump just did was, the House Republicans are floating a resolution saying damn near the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to go, oh, well, they floated a resolution and they said that they condemn it all because they think America, which it is fucking racist. They're reading the tea leaves and like, well, we don't want to abandon our base of racists. So let's keep saying we don't like them, but let's keep saying we do like them. Trump he's not the new magician about this. They've always done this and they're continuing to do this.
Well, I would also say this. Why is it the least bit surprising that Trump would go in this direction? It's not surprising to me at all. And for folks like Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin and anyone for that matter who's Jewish, who is now offended by Trump, my point is, were you offended when he said, my black guy in the audience, when he said Mexicans are rapists and murderers?
You can't be judges.
Yeah, I mean, that was outrageous. I mean, that's in fact how he launched his whole campaign, by saying Mexicans are rapists and murderers, and some of them are, I guess, nice people. Yeah, they're fine people on all sides. Everyone does it. Mexicans are rapists. I mean, he's been saying this all along. Yeah. So why is now the moment for Gary Cohn and Mnuchin to act like they're shocked and chagrined? They should have known all along that this is going to happen.
And
it's an act. Now it's an act.
Right. And to paraphrase Dennis Green, who you probably, you may know him, but
I know Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals. The Bears are who we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were.
Trump is. That's what I was going.
Yeah.
Trump is who we thought he was. He is who he said he was. And all these people who said yes to serving in his administration, not that that's not a plum job for a lot of these people, and this guy he's an economic advisor, he wants to go on to the Federal Reserve, well, of course, be an economic advisor to a president. But this is exactly what, like you said, it's exactly what we thought.
Yeah, and this is why you have to kind of tackle this issue head on, because people always think, oh, someone's being racist or hateful towards another group that I'm not a part of, so I'm not going to care that much. It's so stupid because they were going after Muslims and Mexicans early on because they're the easiest targets. And then later on, they always work their way up to the Jews. So if you're Jewish, and this is why I think the Anti-Defamation League is established and all that, they know that it's going to get there. You start with Muslims, you start with the Mexicans, you go to the trans, then you go to the Jews, then you go to the gays. Eventually, the haters are going to hate everyone that's different.
Yeah.
So you should have been shocked and outraged in the very beginning when he was saying this about Mexicans, not wait until the end when he's saying this about the Jews. Like, there's a continuum. The haters are going to go after all the people that are different. They're not gonna say, well, we only hate these folks, those people we don't hate.
Can I give you a quick theory of why these people stay, why they joined in the first place? Is because 2 of the last 4 RNC chairmen have apologized for the Southern strategy. So if you're a Republican and you're Jewish or you're a black guy or any other minority, even a woman, you're used.
How about the log cabin Republicans?
That's right. You're used to, isn't that something? The log cabin. That's like
they're unbelievable.
That log cabin Republicans, they're gays for Republicans because they want the tax benefits, which is like a black guy being in the Klan because he owns a white sheet factory. You know, so what my thing is, I think these guys are used to it, right? They're used to ignoring racism inside the Republican Party. They're used to it, which is what you have to do. Steve Mnuchin's been ignoring the Southern strategy his whole life. So is Cohn. They've all been doing it.
Wasn't Cohn a Democrat?
And I don't know.
I think he's registered Democrat.
But he was a regular blue collar guy. He was a salesman selling. Cohn used to sell aluminum siding and stuff. And it's an amazing story about how he got his job. Anyway, but. So I think that's it. They're used to ignoring it. That's how the gears work. If you're going to be a successful businessman Republican, the gears work. You have to ignore the racism of your party, right?
And his party now, and a lot of Twitter is #Cohn must go. They don't want to even support someone who is even a little bit against the president. So they are the ones, the right wing. Twitter is the one, is the group that is really most vocally against Gary Cohn right now.
So Michael Steele, after the both sides, many sides comment, and the Michael Steele, former RNC chairman, said that the problem is that even though his approval might be down to 36%, that inside the Republican Party it's still at 80%. So what do you think about that? 80%. So that's what this is, right?
I don't believe that, first of all. I don't believe. I think there has been a real dent in his popularity amongst Republicans. So I don't believe that number. That's Michael Steele spewing one thing he heard once, and certainly I don't think it's recent.
No, I just heard a recent poll that had him at 75% approval from Republicans.
From Republicans, yeah. I mean, that would be consistent with it. I don't believe it. I mean, I think that polling. I'm much more skeptical of polls than I used to be.
I believe it, and 75% of Trump voters are thrilled with him still to this day.
Right.
The other 25% are mixed. Like, he's trying. He didn't do everything I would like for him to do, but overall, I'm okay. He has very, very high standing within his party still.
I don't think. I think it's really falling within his party. I think with his supporters, it is. I don't think it was ever entirely there within his party. So I think, and you're seeing people fall off it. I think that the healthcare thing hurt him a lot with a lot of his voters.
If you like this video, you probably like independent media. The best way to support independent media: become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.